You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. If everyone did not catch that live stream I did last night, I know many of you did not, at least go check out the beginning of it. I interviewed a friend of mine who's doing a particular project, actually many projects, and I think it's worth a listen if you're interested in the types of things that we talk about here. It's an art project, and it ties together a lot of the things that we personally are interested in. So go check that out. Check out my buddy Remorseful CEO on Twitter. Check out his Indiegogo. Check out his website, Death Valley Press, and you will probably see some things that are worth supporting. All right, first of all, from the Daily Caller, this is the big story right now. This is pretty much all that's being covered on most websites that I use for sources. But CNN has issued a correction after identifying Virginia Governor Northam as a Republican. Can you believe this? They said Democrat, but the scroll on the bottom of the screen said he was a Republican. What's going to happen is people on the left are going to take that. They're going to capture it. They're going to make memes, fake little bad memes from the left, because we all know the left can't meme. And then that's going to be the part that enters the public consciousness. Oh, this man, he's a racist and he's a Republican. Of course, except the Democrats are the racists. Guess what, guys? CNN has incorrectly labeled Ralph Northam as a Republican during a segment showing the embattled Virginia governor apologizing for a 1984 medical school yearbook picture. The segment, which aired during Friday night's episode of Anderson Cooper 360, showed a chyron identifying Northam as an R as the network ran its Twitter apology. Or rather, ran his Twitter apology. And look at that. Governor Northam, Republican, Virginia, except he's a Democrat. Fake news CNN. Now, the almost 35-year-old picture of Governor Northam shows him and another associate in college. They are wearing extremely racist garb, and one of them is in makeup and the other one is in a white sheet. I'm not going to show the picture. I'm not even going to show the words on the screen because I did that last night in my live stream and YouTube shut it down. So I am going to leave a link. You guys can go check it out, and I highly suggest that you share it. I know I have. Well, Governor Northam apologized, and he said, "My fellow Virginians, earlier today I released a statement apologizing for behavior in my past that falls far short of the standard you set for me when you elected me to be your governor," Northam wrote via a tweet that also included his on-air apology. "I believe you deserve to hear directly from me." We're going to go take a listen to this. Let's hear what Governor Northam says.
Virginians, earlier today I released a statement apologizing for behavior in my past that falls far short of the standard you set for me when you elected me to be your governor. I believe you deserve to hear directly from me. That photo and the racist and offensive attitudes it represents does not reflect that person I am today or the way that I have conducted myself as a soldier, a doctor, and a public servant. I am deeply sorry. I cannot change the decisions I made, nor can I undo the harm my behavior caused then and today. But I accept responsibility for my past actions, and I am ready to do the hard work of regaining your trust. I have spent the past year as your governor fighting for a Virginia that works better for all people. I am committed to continuing that fight through the remainder of my term and living up to the expectations you set for me when you elected me to serve. Thank you.
Now, audience, can you just imagine if he was a Republican? Can you imagine if that had been Donald Trump in that photo? There would be riots in the street. People would be clamoring for his head. There is no way that this man can survive in his elected office. He must resign. There is no two ways about it. Governor Northam must resign. Look at that. Hashtag Northam must resign. Hashtag Northam resign. 2 of the top trending Twitter hashtags. I cannot believe that he is even considering staying in office. He's got an announcement today at 2:30 p.m. I'm probably going to cover that tonight on my live stream. While Fox News reported that Cooper's initial tweet of the segment included the error without acknowledgement, the CNN host has since removed the tweet and posted a correction on Saturday morning that included the correct chyron. A previous tweet had a video misidentifying Governor Northam's party affiliation. It has been removed and the video has been corrected, Cooper wrote. Now, the network predictably received plenty of blowback for its error. Alana Mastrangelo says, I can't believe CNN falsely labeled Ralph Northam a Republican. Actually, I can. Fake news. Cambry Kwahini Koa says, when you think CNN can't go any lower, they run the Democrat Ralph Northam story saying he was a Republican. They need another name other than fake news. Let's call them what they are. Liars. That's right. Robbie Starbucks says, this is disgusting. All day I've seen Democrats try to smear Republicans by mentioning Republicans in tweets about Ralph Northam. But this is another level of manipulation. This wasn't a mistake. CNN wants to subconsciously make viewers blame a Democrat's racism on Republicans. That's exactly my point that I made at the start of this broadcast. All right, and that is all of the tweets we're going to show in response to Governor Northam. This is incredible, as I just stated. I cannot believe that Ralph Northam is going to remain in office. I know that there is many calls for him to resign, but the response from the left and the response from his constituency is incommensurate with the severity of his actions. And the way that people treat Donald Trump for doing absolutely nothing even close to this, for bringing Black America up, raising them up in a way that no other president or elected official ever has, I cannot believe that they don't take this more seriously and go after this guy to a greater degree. Now, another from the Daily Caller. Embezzlement, theft charges against labor kingpin may cripple Dems' 2020 machine. Yes. Pennsylvania Democrats are worried about the short-term future of their political machine after authorities charged a Philadelphia labor leader with numerous counts of embezzlement, bribery, and theft, Politico reports. John Doherty, the business manager of Philadelphia's branch of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and 6 other labor officials were indicted on 116 charges related to lavish misuse of union funds and buying influence with corrupt politicians, Philadelphia's The Inquirer and CBS Philly have reported. The 159-page indictment was released by the federal court in Pennsylvania on Friday. It details more than 2 years of FBI and IRS operations and raids launched against IBEW Local 98 union offices, officials, and their homes. Doherty used union funds as his personal bank account and as a means to obtain employment for himself, his family, and his friends, the indictment says, according to the Inquirer. I got a different world than most people ever exist in, Doherty says, according to the transcript of a 2015 FBI wiretap put in the indictment. Doherty has wielded significant influence across the battleground state, throwing the union's power and purse behind politicians, largely Democrats, running for local, state, and national offices. I would argue that they're the single most effective political organization in the state, former Republican Representative Ryan Costello told Politico. They're thinking 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. Costello lost his seat after Pennsylvania's electoral map was redrawn by the state's Supreme Court. Doherty's union was instrumental in placing 3 justices, including Doherty's own brother, on the court, Politico reports. If Doherty is convicted and taken out of the state's political machine, the impact may ripple from Philadelphia's local elections all the way up to the 2020 presidential race. Pennsylvania Democrats are worried that losing Doherty will seriously cripple their ability to mobilize voters and funds against the GOP and President Donald Trump in the short term, according to Politico. When people run for president, John's on the list of people they call in Pennsylvania, longtime political observer Larry Seisler told Politico. Why am I not surprised? The Democratic money machine is what gets people elected in these races in so many different ways. As they just said, redrawing districts, using the cachet, the power of the unions, the power of the purse, bribing people, all of it. It is a sad, sad day. You know, even here in my town, locally, the Democrats wield immense power with the unions and with the other, organizations like the IBEW. I'll tell you a story. I ran for city council once, And before I was allowed to go out there and start stumping, even though I had gotten my signatures, enough people signed to allow me to run, I had to go meet with a local lobbyist, I was told. Well, I get there, we make small talk for a few minutes. This guy represented all of the developers in the area. He was a big-time money guy for the city. And after a few minutes of small talk, he said, "Well, I'm not gonna waste your time. We just want to know, if we let you run, are you gonna play ball?" I was shocked. I didn't think that at this local level, this small town level, that I was going to face the corruption that I did. But I didn't back down. I told them that I was not going to vote based on what somebody told me to do. And I said that I was going to do what was in the interest of the voters and the people who live in my city. And, long story short, I lost because I didn't have the support of any of these groups, okay? I did not get one endorsement from a union or any of these business groups because they all supported the person that I was running against. He was an 8-year incumbent. But I'll tell you what I did do. I got 45% of the vote, okay? It was the closest race between a newcomer in an election here in my city and a 8-year incumbent that anybody had ever seen in decades. I literally walked to every single house in my city that was in my district, and I met everyone. I gave them my own literature. I talked to them, and I won a lot of people over. Now, if I would have had the support of just one of these unions, I would have won, all right? But the thing is, I wasn't willing to sell out. And these people control the political machine because they compromise people. They get them to sell out, and then once they've done this stuff, once they've accepted a bribe or they've accepted some kind of, in-kind donation, maybe their family member gets helped out, or maybe they get their brother on the justice, or maybe they get their brother on a judge panel or something like that, then they're in their pocketbook. They're in their back pocket for life. I wasn't willing to do that, and so therefore, I'm not in politics today. But I'm glad that I'm not, because I wouldn't be here right now if I was. And in a not-so-shocking tale, this is from South Front. This is an organization that I believe they cover wars and military stuff in other parts of the world, not the United States, but actually maybe they do cover the United States. I don't know, but I see all these topics: Israel, Syria, Turkey, Yemen, Lebanon, Afghanistan, Ukraine. So this is an article that came to my attention from Ed at the Outer Light. You're not going to believe this. Okay, so what is it called? Regime change in Venezuela, army defectors, Russian mercenaries, and disappearing gold. Wow, that's a good story. Over the past few days, the intensity of anti-government protests in Venezuela has declined, despite attempts of the U.S.-led bloc to warm them up through both public and clandestine measures. However, the conflict continues to develop amid the acute standoff in the media sphere between the Maduro government and its opponents backed by the U.S.-led bloc. On January 29th, CNN, fake news, released an interview with two quote-unquote Venezuelan army defectors. They appealed to U.S. President Donald Trump to arm them to defend freedom in Venezuela. They claimed to be in contact with hundreds of willing defectors via WhatsApp groups and called on Venezuelan soldiers to revolt against the government of President Nicolas Maduro. As Venezuelan soldiers, we are making a request to the U.S. to support us in logistical terms, with communication, with weapons, so we can realize Venezuelan freedom, one of the alleged defectors, Gillian Martinez, told CNN. Another one, Hidalgo Azuge, added, "We're not saying that we need only U.S. support, but also Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and other countries. We are against this dictatorship." During the entire clip, these persons were presented in a manner alleging that they had just recently defected and are now calling on others to follow their step. However, therein lies the problem. The badges on their uniform say FAN, Fuerza Armada Nacionales. This is an outdated pattern which has been dropped by the Venezuelan government. Now Venezuela's service members have a different badge, FAN B, which means Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana. So either the Venezuelan army defectors somehow lost the letter B from their uniform, or the entire interview is a staged show revealing former Venezuelan service members who have been living for a long time outside the country, or in the worst case, actors. But it's CNN, so you shouldn't be surprised. The interview came amid increasing U.S. political, media, and sanction pressure on the Maduro government. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton was even spotted with a mysterious note about the deployment of 5,000 U.S. troops to Colombia, the U.S. ally which borders Venezuela. In this situation, a large-scale military uprising, or at least formation of some opposition within the army, would become a useful tool in a wider effort to overthrow the country's government. On the other hand, the use of such CNN-style content shows that so far the U.S. and its proxies have achieved little success in buying the support of Venezuelan service members. On January 29th, Venezuelan lawmaker Jose Guerrera claimed via Twitter that a Boeing 777 of Russia's Norwind Airlines landed in Caracas on January 28th to spirit away 20 tons of gold bars worth some $840 million from the country's central bank. When asked how he knew this, Guerra provided no evidence. By January 30th, these items of breaking news had rocked the headlines of most of the mainstream media. Another version, which was also quite popular among pro-opposition media, is that the plane, which reportedly made the trip directly from Moscow, moved in a group of Russian private military contractors to support the Maduro government. This version is fueled by reports claiming up to 400 Kremlin-linked private military contractors may have arrived in Venezuela. The developing crisis is also accompanied by the growth of citizen journalism. Bellingcat members already created a Twitter page named In Venezuela, which provides field news about the crisis from Toronto, Canada. It's easy to expect some open-source intelligence investigations revealing crimes of the Maduro government and against peaceful protesters very soon if the conflict escalates further. Roughly speaking, the mainstream media presents the audience with the following story. The Maduro government is about to fall and is already moving the country's gold reserves somewhere via Russian planes. At the same time, Vladimir Putin sent his mercenaries to rescue Maduro and to keep the corrupt regime in power in order to secure Russia's economic and political interests. This, as well as the oppressive nature of the regime, are the only reason why the forces of good have not yet achieved victory. Fortunately, there is the shining knight of democracy, Juan Guaido, who was democratically appointed as the interim president of Venezuela from Washington. He, his Free Venezuelan Army, consisting of hundreds of WhatsApp defectors and a group of unbiased U.S. NATO-funded citizen journalists and investigators, are ready to stand against the Maduro-Putin alliance and to defend freedom and democracy in Venezuela, with a bit of help from the Trump administration for sure. There are no doubts that modern Venezuela is allied with Russia, and Moscow will employ its existing influence to resolve the crisis and thus defend its investments and oil assets. Furthermore, Maduro and his supporters showed that they are not going to give in to the U.S.-led pressure. At the same time, the level of MSM hysteria, including an open disinformation campaign against the Maduro government and attempts to demonize it through various means, including its ties with Moscow, show that Washington establishment is serious in its regime change efforts and may even be ready to investigate a Syria-style proxy war in the country in order to achieve its goals. Wow. So CNN puts out a fake video. See this? Should be a B right there. Should be a B, but it's not. It's only FAN. So this is clearly an old uniform. Now, the way these guys look, they are too young, in my opinion, to have these uniforms as, theirs from 10 years ago. They don't look like they're retired from the military. They look like they're fresh in the military. Maybe they're in their 30s. Maybe. But they look to me to be in their 20s. Late 20s, probably. So we'll have to see how this one pans out. But, I'm not saying that Maduro's not a bad guy. I'm not saying that, the Venezuelan people don't deserve to have a much more stable country. But when you've got CNN starting wars, I think it's a very, very dangerous proposition. And finally, from the Daily Mail, my friend Bree tagged me in this on Twitter, revealed the Sackler family targeted veterans to increase opioid profits with survival guide that urged oxy use and said pills were not addictive. This is disgusting. Okay? Now, I'm also going to say that my mom knew someone who worked for this company and who admitted to her many years ago that OxyContin was essentially better than heroin. All right? They knew what it would do to people. They've known since the beginning. And They encouraged its use because they knew that once people were addicted, they were not going to stop using it. Purdue Pharma and the controlling members of the family-run company targeted veterans in an attempt to drastically increase opioid sales. Disgusting. An unprecedented complaint filed against the pharmaceutical giant and 8 members of the Sackler family states that this was done with the help of a survival guide that was marketed as a self-help book for post-war veterans. The guide urged service members to ask their doctors for opioid prescriptions while assuring them that the pills were not addictive unless there was a family history of drug abuse. Attorney General Maura Healey states in the complaint filed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that the campaign launched by Purdue and the Sacklers to target veterans was remarkably successful in the end, at a terrible cost. Compared to non-veterans, Massachusetts veterans are 3 times more likely to die from opioid overdose, reads the court filing. Wow. The complaint lays out a 3-step method by which Purdue and the Sacklers worked to increase profits by targeting untapped groups. First, Purdue deceived Massachusetts doctors and patients to get more people on its dangerous drugs. Purdue targeted vulnerable people who could be introduced to its opioids, including elderly patients, veterans, and people who had never taken opioids before, states the filing. Second, Purdue misled them to take higher and more dangerous doses. And finally, Purdue deceived them to stay on its drugs for longer and more harmful periods of time. Step 1 in the push to get more veterans hooked on OxyContin was the Survival Guide. Exit Wounds, a survival guide to pain management for returning veterans and their families, was released in 2009 by Derek McGinnis. He is an Iraq War combat veteran who lost his leg when a terrorist deliberately drove into the ambulance he was driving overseas. He now speaks around the country to doctors and veterans on behalf of Purdue Pharma about his chronic pain, a diagnosis that requires him to be on pain pills at all times. That makes McGinnis a profit powerhouse for Purdue, but could lead to problems down the line, according to experts. The complaint cites one study that states long experience with opioids shows that people who are not predisposed to addiction are likely to become addicted to opioid pain medications. Very, very true. Very, very true. There was little mention of Exit Wounds' origin online, however, with even Amazon making no mention of Purdue or the Sacklers on the book's sales page. Exit Wounds tells the inspirational story of how one courageous veteran, with the aid of his family, recovered and thrived despite near-death traumatic brain injury and the loss of a limb. The book also offers veterans and their families comprehensive and authoritative information on acute and chronic pain syndromes afflicting veterans, treatment options, and strategies for self-advocating for optimal pain care and medical resources inside and outside the VA system, according to its page on Amazon. There is only one passage of the book that is highlighted in the complaint, and while it is brief, there are a number of alarming comments. The pain-relieving properties of opioids are unsurpassed. They are today considered the gold standard of pain medications, and so are often the main medications used in the treatment of chronic pain, writes McGinnis in his book. Yet despite their great benefits, opioids are underused. For a number of reasons, healthcare providers may be afraid to prescribe them, and patients may be afraid to take them. At the core of this wariness is the fear of addiction, so I want to tackle this issue head-on. McGinnis later writes in the book, long experience with opioids shows people who are not predisposed to addiction are unlikely to become addicted to opioid pain medications. That is a flat-out lie. The Sacklers also allegedly pushed high doses of painkillers and hoped to cash in on anti-overdose drug Narcan, while 235 Americans died from the opioid epidemic. The lawsuit claims that Purdue Pharma and members of the Sackler family knew that patients with higher doses of OxyContin for long periods were at an increased risk of serious side effects, including addiction, yet they continued to promote the high doses as they yielded the most profit. In fact, from 2008 to 2016, the Sackler family added $4.2 billion to their already massive fortune in profits derived from just the sale of prescription opioids. Richard Sackler, a son of the founder of Purdue Pharma and its former president, wrote in a 2008 email to company officials to measure our performance by prescriptions by strength, giving higher measures to higher strengths, according to the filing. Jonathan and Mortimer Sackler were also copied in on the email, according to the new disclosures. Richard Sackler has also denied he was involved in the company's marketing activities. After making billions selling opioids, Purdue Pharma even considered selling anti-overdose drug Narcan. The filing shows a potential plan to study long-term script users to better understand target end patients for Narcan. The plan never went forward, but appeared in a 2014 presentation to company officials, including a Sackler family member, which also stated that pain treatment and addiction are naturally linked. and that there is an opportunity to expand our offering to an end-to-end pain provider. The filing paints a picture of a wealthy family getting richer while overdoses skyrocketed as the opioid epidemic swept the country and claimed the lives of more than 235,000 Americans, according to the Centers for Disease Control. The 275-page suit is set to tarnish the legacy of a family that once bragged they would bury the competition with the release of the highly addictive OxyContin. Purdue spokesman Robert Josephson criticized the lawsuit and denied the claims, telling the New York Times, "None of the documents cited by the Attorney General support her fictional narrative that the company was only interested in promoting higher doses." The complaint states that 8 members of the Sackler family, Richard, Beverly, David, Eileen, Jonathan, Kathy, Mortimer, and Teresa, paid their families billions of dollars from opioid sales. The exact number is listed as $4.2 billion, though it is noted that the list of payments is likely incomplete and not exhaustive. It was not just the family who was profiting either. The board members taking home $600,000 annually from their work with the company, according to the complaint. Members of the family that controls Connecticut-based Purdue Pharma are also defendants in a lawsuit brought by New York's Suffolk County. There is also a massive consolidated federal case playing out in Ohio. More than 1,000 government entities have sued Purdue, along with other drug makers and distributors, claiming they're partly culpable for a drug overdose crisis that resulted in a record 72,000 deaths in 2017. The majority of those deaths were from illegal or illicit opioids. The company documents at the heart of the Massachusetts claims also could be evidence in the Ohio lawsuits, which are being overseen by a federal judge. The allegations have already started to tarnish a name that is best known for its generosity to museums worldwide, including New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, which has a Sackler wing, and London's Tate Modern. The Sackler name is also on a gallery at the Smithsonian, a wing of galleries at London's Royal Academy of Arts, and a museum at Beijing's Peking University. The family's best-known and most generous donor, Arthur M. Sackler, died nearly a decade before OxyContin was released. In a lawsuit filed last year, the Massachusetts Attorney General's office went after members of the Sackler family and Purdue, which is structured as a partnership and is not publicly traded. The company's flagship drug, OxyContin, was the first of a generation of drugs that used narcotic painkiller in a time-release form. That meant each pill had a larger amount of drug in it than other versions and could get abusers a more intense high if they defeated the time-release process. The state is asserting that Richard Sackler, a son of a company founder and at the time a senior vice president for Purdue, as well as other family members, pushed selling OxyContin even when they knew it could cause severe problems. When the drug was first sold in 1996, the filing said, Sackler told the sales force the launch of OxyContin tablets will be followed by a blizzard of prescriptions that will bury the competition. In 2007, the company and 3 current and former executives pleaded guilty to criminal charges that they deceived regulators, doctors, and patients about the drug's addiction risks. The company agreed to fines of $634 million. That's a drop in the bucket. The next year, according to the Massachusetts lawsuit, the company pressed ahead with a new version of the drug designed to be harder for abusers to crush. It did so without first conducting trials and despite a warning from the company's CEO that the new version will not stop patients from the simple act of taking too many pills. Purdue had previously responded to the Massachusetts filing. In a rush to vilify a single manufacturer whose medicines represent less than 2% of opioid pain prescriptions, rather than doing the hard work of trying to solve a complex public health crisis, the complaint distorts critical facts and cynically conflates prescription of opioid medications with illegal heroin and fentanyl, said the company. A spokesman for the Sackler family declined to comment for this article. So these people essentially, just kicked the opioid crisis in America off to a high degree. There was already abuse of prescription pain pills before that, but they were essentially giving people death in a single pill because people would take one 80 milligram OxyContin and they'd either die or they'd get addicted. And, and then when it became the time release, then people would just take too many of them. This is a real tragic story, and I will certainly be keeping abreast of this. I want to thank Bree for pointing this out to me. As I've said before, this story has touched me personally, and there is nothing that I want more than for people to be able to live their lives happy, healthy, and free of addiction. All right, so if you see this book, don't buy it. Or maybe get it just so that you can highlight the passages inside and then make sure that you put some extra evidence in there. this is disgusting. I can't believe that they would target veterans and old people and people who'd never even taken opioids. It's just a terrible, terrible situation. All right, I want to thank everyone for joining me. I know this was a long episode. This has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector. If you guys would like to help support me, there is information in the comment or the description below. You can give me a one-time cash donation. You can also donate regularly using Patreon, or you can donate crypto. I've got crypto wallets down there that you can donate to. And everything that I receive is going directly into helping me get, better equipment so that I can do this better. And it would be sweet. Somebody mentioned last night, maybe I need to hire a producer. You know what? I might be getting to that point because I've got, 5 animals here in the house with me. I've got my daughter and then all of her friends, but they're usually not interested in helping Dad produce conspiracy news shows. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I have been Red Pill 78, the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News.